Did you do this?
Let's call it a reminder you don't get to walk away from me like I never mattered. Move your hand.
The hissing sound hit me before I even opened the car door. I stepped out and froze. All 4 tires. Destroyed. Rubber shredded across the valet entrance like someone had taken their time making sure I couldn't leave. And then I saw him. Marcus. Leaning against the pillar, smiling like he'd been waiting for me. "Miss me?" he said. My stomach dropped. Because Marcus wasn't just my ex. He was the kind of man who thought leaving him was a mistake you had to pay for. I tightened my grip on my clutch. "Did you do this?" He laughed. "Let's call it a reminder. You don't get to walk away from me like I never mattered." People were staring. Phones were out. And just like that, my night turned into a show. But here's what Marcus didn't know. I wasn't the same woman he used to control. And the man I married? He wasn't the kind you threaten twice. Be honest. Would you handle this yourself or let someone else deal with it? My name is Zara Okafor. 6 months ago, I was a marketing consultant living in a modest Brooklyn apartment, dating a man who told me I'd never amount to anything without him. That man was Marcus Hale, charming on the surface, controlling underneath. We'd been together 2 years. 2 years of him deciding where we ate, who I saw, what I wore. 2 years of him reminding me that I was lucky he stayed, despite my difficult personality. I left him 4 months into a work trip to Seoul. No warning, no closure, just a text. "I'm done. Don't contact me." He'd called 73 times that week. I blocked him after the first 10. What Marcus didn't know, what no one from my old life knew, was that during that Seoul trip, I'd met Kang Ji-hoon. Ji-hoon was not on any business agenda. He was a mistake, a beautiful, dangerous, inevitable mistake. We'd met at a hotel bar. I'd been crying into an overpriced whiskey after another exhausting call with Marcus. Ji-hoon had sat down next to me, said nothing for 5 full minutes, then slid his own drink toward me and said in perfect English, "Trade. Yours looks like it's absorbing too much pain." I'd laughed despite myself. 3 weeks later, I'd married him in a private ceremony in Jeju Island. Ji-hoon was the kind of man people didn't ask questions about. He owned half of Seoul's skyline through legitimate companies and controlled the other half through networks that never appeared on tax forms. He was calm, precise, and terrifying in the way that didn't require volume. I'd seen him end a business negotiation with 3 words, watched a room full of executives go silent when he set his phone down a certain way, witnessed a man apologize for something he hadn't even done yet just from the particular quality of Ji-hoon's attention. People didn't threaten what belonged to him. Not twice. He was the first man who'd ever looked at me like I was someone worth protecting instead of managing, and the first man whose protection felt less like a gift and more like an inevitability. Tonight was supposed to be simple, dinner with my best friend Imani at Autumn. Ji-hoon was in Seoul handling business, his polite term for things I didn't ask about. I'd driven myself, worn the black dress he'd bought me last month, felt, for the first time in years, like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. And then Marcus had destroyed that. I walked toward him slowly, heels clicking on wet pavement. "Zara." He said my name like it tasted good. "You look expensive." "Marcus." I stopped 3 feet away. "Did you slash my tires?" He laughed sharp, bitter. "Slash? That's such an ugly word. I prefer provided consequences." "For what?" "For ghosting me. For thinking you could just leave without explanation. For," he gestured at me, head to toe, "whatever this is. New clothes, new car, new attitude." His eyes narrowed. "New man?" I didn't answer. "Yeah." He nodded slowly, poison dripping into his voice. "I figured. You traded up, didn't you? Found some rich asshole who's dumb enough to think you're worth the investment." My hands were shaking. Not from fear, from the effort it took not to speak. "Here's the thing, Zara." He stepped closer. "You don't get to just move on like I didn't matter, like we didn't matter. So I thought I'd remind you." He glanced at my car. that actions have consequences. You just committed vandalism in front of security cameras. Yeah? He smiled. And? You're gonna call the cops? Press charges? Drag this out in court so your new boyfriend sees what kind of drama you bring? He leaned in. I don't think so. I think you're gonna eat this, fix your tires, and remember that I'm not someone you can just throw away. Imani found me 10 minutes later, standing near the valet podium, phone in hand. Zara, what? She saw my face. What happened? Marcus slashed my tires. What? Her voice pitched up. Marcus? Your ex Marcus? He's here? Was. He left after his little performance. Did you call the police? I shook my head. Zara. I called Ji-hoon. Imani went quiet. She'd met Ji-hoon exactly once, at our very private wedding ceremony. She'd hugged me afterward and whispered, "That man would burn down a city for you. I don't know if that's romantic or terrifying." Both, I'd thought. It's both. Is he coming? Imani asked carefully. He's in Seoul. Then, he's sending someone. We sat at our reserved table by the window. I couldn't eat, could barely think. That's when I realized he didn't just find me. He tracked me. Marcus had posted about Orem on his Instagram 3 weeks ago, tagged it. Overrated bougie trash, he'd written. He hated this place. So why was he here tonight? How did he even know you'd be here? Imani asked, reading my mind. I pulled up his profile, scrolled. There, a photo from 2 days ago, cropped tight just his face, a smile, but in the reflection of his sunglasses, my Maserati. He'd been following me for weeks. Zara? Imani's voice pulled me back. I showed her the phone, watched her face drain. This isn't anger, she whispered. This is obsession. I know. I stared at my untouched wine. I know what I need to do. What I needed to do was let Ji-hoon handle it. That was the smart, safe option. But part of me, some stubborn, exhausted part, wanted to handle Marcus myself, wanted to look him in the eye and show him exactly how little power he had left. My phone buzzed. Ji-hoon, are you safe? Me. Yes. Tires slashed. Ex-boyfriend. Ji-hoon? Name? I hesitated. Once I gave Ji-hoon a name, things would move in directions I couldn't control. Me. Marcus Hale. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Ji-hoon, I'm handling it. Go home. I'll have a car sent. Me. I want to stay. Ji-hoon. Zara. Me. Please. Long pause. Ji-hoon. Fine. Don't move. Someone will be there in 30 minutes. Be honest, if someone from your past showed up like this, would you want revenge or closure? 20 minutes later, Marcus walked back into Orem. He spotted me immediately, smiled, walked straight to our table. Zara. He pulled out the chair next to me uninvited, sat down. We're not done talking. Imani stiffened. You need to leave. He ignored her completely. I've been thinking. Maybe I was too harsh earlier. Maybe we can work this out. There's nothing to work out, I said quietly. See? I don't think that's true. He leaned closer, voice low. I think you're scared. I think you jumped into something you don't understand with some guy who's probably controlling you worse than I ever did, and now you're too proud to admit it. You don't know anything about my life. I know you. His hand moved toward mine. I know you need someone who actually understands you, not some stranger who bought you a nice car and thinks that makes him. Move your hand. The voice came from behind us. We both turned. A man stood there. Korean. Early 30s. Suit so sharp it looked tailored by someone who understood violence as an art form. His face was calm, but his eyes carried the particular emptiness of someone who'd done things that don't leave witnesses. I'd met Taemin once before, at the wedding. He'd stood in the back, hands clasped, watching the perimeter. Ji-hoon had introduced him simply, if something happens to me, he makes sure nothing happens to you. The way he'd said it, clinical, factual, had told me everything about what Taemin actually was. Marcus had no idea what he was looking at. Who the hell are you? Marcus asked. Someone who's going to ask you once more to move your hand away from Mrs. Kang. Marcus blinked. Mrs. what? The man's gaze flicked to me. Ma'am, your husband asked me to escort you home. I'm not finished here, I said. With respect, ma'am, I think you are. Marcus looked between us, confusion hardening into anger. Mrs. Kang? You married someone? 4 months ago, I said. 4. He stood up fast enough to knock his chair back. You left me and married some random. Not random, the man in the suit interrupted. Kang Ji-hoon. Perhaps you've heard of him. Marcus went pale. Even I was surprised. Ji-hoon's name carried weight in certain circles, but I hadn't expected it to land like that. You're lying, Marcus said, but his voice cracked. The man pulled out his phone, showed Marcus something on the screen. I couldn't see it, but whatever it was drained the color from Marcus's face completely. You married a... Marcus looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Do you have any idea what kind of man? I know exactly what kind of man he is, I said. He's the kind who doesn't slash my tires when he's upset. He's the kind who shows up. Marcus's face twisted. You're out of your mind if you think... You don't get to touch her. Taemin's voice dropped 10 degrees. Not her hand, not her car, not her evening, not even her attention. He stepped forward, 1 step, just one. Marcus stumbled back. You had 2 years to treat her well, Taemin continued, voice surgical calm. You chose otherwise. That window is closed, permanently. He tilted his head slightly, a movement so small it barely registered, but somehow it carried the weight of every unspoken threat. Mr. Kang's instructions were very clear. You leave now, voluntarily, or you leave in a condition that makes walking difficult. The restaurant had gone silent. Marcus's face drained of color. This isn't over, he said, voice cracking. Yes, I said quietly. It is. Taemin didn't move, didn't blink. Marcus left. The restaurant, which had gone church silent during the confrontation, slowly resumed normal noise levels. Imani stared at me. Girl, what just happened? I have no idea. The suited man offered his hand. Mrs. Kang, my name is Choi Taemin. I work for your husband. He's asked that I drive you home and ensure your vehicle is replaced by morning. Replaced? He insists. I stood slowly, legs unsteady. I don't need a replacement. I just need the tires fixed. With respect, ma'am, Mr. Kang was very specific. Imani grabbed her purse. I'm coming with you. That won't be necessary, Taemin said. I wasn't asking. The car Taemin led us to was a black Mercedes sedan with windows so dark I couldn't see inside until the door opened. Ji-hoon was in the back seat. I froze. You said you were in Seoul. I was. He looked at me with that same unreadable expression he always wore when he was deciding whether to be gentle or honest. Then you texted me a name. So I got on a plane. You flew 14 hours because my ex slashed my tires? No. He reached for my hand, pulled me into the car beside him. I flew 14 hours because someone hurt you and thought there wouldn't be consequences. Imani climbed in after me, wide-eyed and silent. Ji-hoon glanced at her, then back at me. Do you want him arrested? Bankrupt? Disappeared? Ji-hoon. I'm asking what you want, Zara. Not what's reasonable. Not what's legal. What do you want? I thought about Marcus's smile, his certainty that he could still control me, his hands reaching for mine like he had any right. I want him to understand that I'm not his anymore, I said. I want him to know that what we had is dead. Completely. Ji-hoon studied me. Then he nodded. Taemin. Sir, file a police report for the vandalism. Security footage, witness statements, everything formal. Then contact his employer. Make sure they're aware of the charges. Sir, and his landlord. I want to know his lease terms. I grabbed Ji-hoon's arm. You're going to get him evicted? I'm going to make sure he understands that touching what's mine has costs he can't afford. That's proportional, Ji-hoon finished. He damaged your property. I'm damaging his stability. If he escalates, I escalate. That's how this works. Marcus called me 6 times over the next 3 days. I didn't answer. On the 4th day, I got a text. Marcus, please, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I'll leave you alone. Just tell him to stop. I showed it to Ji-hoon. He read it without expression. Do you want me to stop? What did you do? Nothing permanent. He lost his job. His lease wasn't renewed. A few financial accounts were frozen pending investigation into some irregularities I may have discovered. He set his phone down. He's uncomfortable. Not destroyed. Yet. Ji-hoon. You asked me to make him understand. I'm making him understand. I thought about this. About Marcus's face when he'd realized who I'd married. About his desperation now. Let him go, I said finally. You're sure? I don't want him in my life in any form, not even as someone you're punishing. Ji-hoon considered this. Then he texted someone, probably Tae-min, and set the phone aside. Done. Just like that? Just like that. He pulled me against him, his hand gentle in my hair. But if he contacts you again, if he so much as looks at you from across the street, I won't ask your permission next time. I believed him. I was having coffee with Imani when she showed me her phone. Did you see this? It was a social media post, Marcus's account, a photo of him in what looked like a budget apartment somewhere far from the city, smiling with the kind of forced cheerfulness that screamed rock bottom. Caption: New beginnings. Sometimes life humbles you in ways you didn't expect. Grateful for the lesson. He moved, Imani said. Completely. Different state. I stared at the photo. Do you feel bad? She asked. I thought about it honestly. Stared at that photo, the budget apartment, the forced smile, the caption about gratitude and lessons. 2 years ago, I would have felt guilty. 6 months ago, I might have felt vindicated. Now? No, I said finally. I don't feel bad, but I don't feel satisfied either. Imani waited. I searched for the word. Quiet. Like something that used to take up so much space just isn't there anymore. Not because it was destroyed. Because it stopped mattering. Freedom didn't feel loud. It didn't feel like revenge or justice or closure. It felt like waking up one morning and realizing you'd stop checking your phone for messages from someone who doesn't message you anymore. It felt like permission I didn't know I'd been waiting for. I feel free, I said, but not the way I thought I would. Stories like this always leave something behind, a question you don't ask out loud. If someone who hurt you got exactly what they deserved, would you feel guilty or relieved? That night, Ji-hoon asked me if I regretted how things had unfolded. I thought about Marcus's tire slashing, his smug face, his certainty that I'd always be someone he could punish. And then I thought about Ji-hoon flying 14 hours because someone had made me feel small. No, I said, I don't regret anything. He was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled me closer, his hand gentle in my hair, his voice low and certain. People like him operate on a simple principle. They believe kindness is weakness, that silence is permission, that leaving is forgetting. He kissed my forehead. I wanted him to learn that some people aren't left behind. They walk away, and when they do, the world rearranges itself around their absence. He looked at me with those dark, unreadable eyes. You didn't need me to save you from him, Zara. You needed him to understand what it costs to underestimate you. A pause. I just made sure the bill came due. Tell me honestly, if your ex showed up and tried to sabotage you like this, would you handle it yourself, or let someone else deliver the consequences? This is just one story in a world full of hidden power and silent revenge. If you want to see what happens when people underestimate the wrong person, you already know what to do.